All right, everyone. Do another project on the Expedition. I still got to figure out a name for it, but anyway, if you've been following along, you remember that the lip on this stock air intake is all folded back and it's in pretty bad shape. So today, I'm going to be putting a real cold air intake on this thing. Yes. Now, at one point I had bought one that had an exposed filter that lived in here, and that was not a cold air intake. That breathed under the hood air. So went in and spent a little more money. I've used this company Volant before and had real good results with them back when I had a couple different Mustangs. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it on here. I mean, this one's trash. The filter's plugged up. I figure may as well. I'm gonna hang on to this thing for a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the camera on my head and we can go ahead and start. So first thing it wants you to do is obviously turn the vehicle off, take the 6mm bolts out from the engine cover, then basically remove this whole thing, separate this, and then it wants us to get the airflow meter out. So basically remove the lid, pry it open, disconnect the mass airflow sensor inside, remove the lid and the airflow sensor completely, and unhook the 2 bolts that fasten the sensor to the lid with a 10mm socket. So go ahead and get, all right, gonna get the 8 and unplug here. My hair looks funny in the shadow, look like a reverse mohawk. So make sure to unplug. This is the air intake temperature sensor. This one tells the engine what the air coming in is temperature wise, so if it's too hot it can adjust the timing so you don't knock or ping. So I'm gonna, if you mess with hose clamps a lot and it gets frustrating to use a flat blade screwdriver, it's the same thing as an 8mm or a 5/16, so you can go ahead and use those sockets and it'll save you a lot of time. So get this guy off. As you can see, this lip had been folded back so it doesn't seal that well. Let's take a look at this. These things are known for sticking, but this one actually moves okay. So at some point I'm gonna clean it and I'll show you guys how, but today I'm just doing the air intake. So we'll put this aside, and then there's the connector right here for the mass airflow meter. And what the mass airflow meter does is it tells the engine how much air is going into it, so it can adjust how much fuel it sprays. So this comes out. And then this is the last portion. It's the filter coat, lives in here. All right, and as you can see, this filter's pretty dirty. You see the crap coming out. So what it wants us to do is open this thing up and get the airflow meter out of here. So take your screwdriver and go in a circle. And there we are. Now, unfortunately, you won't be able to unplug it because of this grommet. So what we'll do is see if we can get it out, then put it in sideways. And sure enough, the airflow meter comes out. Now, if this were a later style one, it'll have 6 conductors, and the air intake temperature sensor, which goes here, has 2 wires. It would be integrated into this. But since this is a 2000, not a newer one, it doesn't have it. So what it wants us to do is probably unscrew the 2 bolts that fasten the sensor to the lid with the 10mm socket and wrench. So go ahead and take this off. Now this process is pretty much the same if you have a K&N or an Air Raid or an AEM or one of the other hundreds of different brands of air intake, but this is how we do it on the Volant. I like the Volant style because it's a sealed box and it sucks from the hole right there instead of the engine compartment. Was a little more expensive, but like I said, they're located in the town I grew up in. It's a good group of guys over there. And one of my buddies back in 03, when he got his Mustang brand new, a friend of ours worked R&D at Volant and asked if he could use the Mustang to prototype the 03 and up intake, and he did, and they were real cool about it. So anyway, next it says relocate the mass airflow sensor along with the sensor gasket to the Volant filter box lid. Secure it to the lid using the 4 half-by-20 bolts and 4 quarter washers. Use a 7/16 wrench to tighten. Okay, so got the wrench. What I'm going to do is take these out. So we can see the filter. Damn. Filters always looked nice. Okay. Filter's nice and tight. You want to make sure of that. Now, get that hardware out of the way and set that there. Now it says use the washers and the gasket. Now the gasket is quite crucial in order to make sure it actually seals. Otherwise you'll suck a bunch of crap into the engine. So since the filter goes in like that, it'll go like this in the truck, so you can see how it's indexed. It won't really go the other way. So we'll do that. And then this airflow meter is also indexed, so you can see this portion matches up perfectly. So what we'll do is we'll get the bolts. And these split washers or lock washers, what happens is when you tighten them, they flatten out and they keep pressure on the screw. They keep it tight so it doesn't really want to back itself out. Now this is plastic with a brass insert into it, so I don't want to tighten it too much, but just enough. Okay, got that one. Get this guy going. And as you're doing this, it's a good idea to turn it and make sure that the gasket's not pinched anywhere. Like there. Okay, so as I push down, it'll pop out right and not leave a gap. So put this one in. Okay, and then I tighten these just like I tighten a tire. I tighten anything like I tighten a tire. If there's multiple bolts, I go in a circle. So let's do this one a little bit. Do this one a little bit. Do this one a little bit. And then this one. So I'm going to tighten this one all the way up. Then this guy. Then this guy. And just keep doing that in a circle until everything's nice and tight and you've collapsed the lock washers. Okay, so that's done. So the next step will be attach the ram filter to the other end of the lid with the filter clamp. That's already done. Okay, apply the dual mold trim around the end opening of the filter box. Install the Volant filter box into the pre-existing location of the stock filter box. Okay, so it's asking for a gasket. So that should be this guy. So apply the dual mold trim around the end opening of the airbox. So that should be this guy. Now this, I hate this kind of trim. It's a real pain in the butt. But what I like to do is find the longest straight part, like here. Let's do it on the stool. And you just have to push it on. It's kind of a pain in the butt when you have to go around corners and sharp edges and stuff. So, I mean, this stuff's never that easy to work with, but once you get it on, it should stay. The engine heat will get it warm and then it'll be pliable, but as you can see, it's too long. So I'm gonna go grab my cutters. So I got the cutters. Let's figure out how long it needs to be. Cut about a little bit off it. See what it does now. Oh, get the little metal piece out. It's nice that the trim has metal in it. Makes it a lot stronger. But it's also not fun to pull it out. There we go. Now this stuff's not a super tight sealing surface, it just helps it not suck hot engine compartment air, so that's on. Okay, so install the dual mold trim, install the Volant filter box into the pre-existing location on the stock filter box. Then it says, talking about the rubber. Now what I'm wondering is if it's supposed to use one of these things, or if it just chills right here. It looks like it just chills right there. Okay, so it's just friction fit. That works. It's a decent design. It has a hole here to keep water out. Okay. All right, so we got that. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and install this in here with the screws I took out. All right, put these screws in. Okay, next, slip the 3-inch end of the rubber reducer along with the 48 clamp around the throttle body. On the 3.5-inch opening of the reducer, slip the 56 clamp and insert the end of the air duct that has 2 fittings. Do not tighten until the entire assembly is in place. So, go ahead and put this guy in here. Looks quite nice here. So, get this guy. So the skinny end will be the throttle body, and it says put the 48 clamp around the throttle body, 48, and then place the 56 around the air duct that has the 2 fittings. This is 56. Put this on here. Okay. Place the 56. Now I'm going to go ahead and snug the 56 because this one shouldn't need to be do a whole lot of moving. So put that right there. And put the 48 over here. And then now this guy should give this thing a little bit more power. I mean, the stock filter design's a pretty good one, but it is restrictive. and it does narrow down to a really tiny hole where it goes through the where it goes into the fender. So every little bit of air is going to help. Okay, that one's there. So what it wants is this, but I think it'll be easier to put this guy on first. Let's see. Loosen it up. Damn, it's tight. Come on. There we go. Now I might have to trim that a little bit because it's sticking out pretty far. That's the end of the big tube. Then it goes on there, so there's quite a bit of play, but doesn't want to line up now, but as far as these, but it's not going to. So I'm gonna leave it how it is right now. Okay, that shouldn't go anywhere. You can see it's nice and tight. So I'm gonna take the airflow meter right here and plug it in and get the air intake temperature sensor out of here. Now this is always a fun one to get out. Got this out. I'm gonna get a little moisture on it, and it should pop right in. Index it so it'll plug in. That's all she wrote. It is in. Now I'll have to run those pipes and we'll be good. Okay, we're gonna finish this guy up real quick. Now, they gave me some lengths of tube for this, so I went ahead and trimmed this guy to fit here. This is the one going to the idle air control valve back in there. And then this is for the PCV system, which is positive crankcase ventilation. It's for emissions, but I mean, it's not 100% critical, but you still need it as long as you want to smog and everything. So anyway, those are plugged in. Let me get the ratchet to tighten that up. All right, so check that, check that. That's tight, and this one's about to be tight. Okay, now, like I said, at some point in the near future, I'm gonna have to probably trim this black pipe a little bit, cut like a 1/2 inch off here, then trim the silicone because I got something else I'm gonna put on here, but I'll document it when I do. So let's see, probably gonna have to replace that emissions hose because it's all crusty, but let's see how it starts. If it sounds any different. It's kind of hard to hear because the fan hasn't quieted up yet, but as you can also see, I put these different wheels on. Now, I have another video about changing tires, so I wasn't gonna do it on this, but I have to add the rear tires on it next, so that's probably gonna be my project today. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the intake install. Like I said, real simple. Anyone can do it with some basic hand tools. Let's see if it quieted up. Nope. I do have an exhaust leak over here that I'm gonna have to address at some point, but not too worried about it at the moment. But anyway, guys, thanks for following. I look forward to hearing from you. Have a good night.